Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Penny Lab. We are looking at the data tables now and the graph. Now, you see on here that I don't have any data. It is because you need to do this experiment yourself. Oh, Miss Baradic, it's horrible. You'll survive. So I'm just going to use some numbers so I can show you the correct information, but this is not the information that you would have gotten. I know. So fun. So tragic. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is we'll use this information. We'll go 50, and we'll go. Okay, so this is not information you should have. I'm using it for numbers. So if I see, or Mrs. Carpolino sees that you've used these exact same numbers, we know that you did not test this yourself. So if you did not yet test this yourself, go back and test it yourself. Okay, so continuing then, we need to get our averages. Remember, to get an average, we need to add up all the trials and then divide by how many trials we have. So for the penny head, we have 1, 2, 3 total trials. So we'll go 51 plus 53 plus 52. We get 156. 156 divided by 3 gives us 52. And notice I don't have drops after each of these numbers because we already have that up here. The next one, so for our tail, it's going to be divided by 3. Or if you had 4, you divide it by 4. If you had 2, you divide it by 2. So we've got 48 plus 54 plus 52. So 154 divided by 3 gives us 51.3. So there we'll go. Reminder, we just want to go to that first decimal place. That is plenty far for what our purposes are. So now we need to make our bar graph of our results. Now we do have our data tables and graphs cheat sheet to use. So pull that out and check over it. Also, it's all right here kind of as a little checklist for you. Now remember, where we put our independent and dependent variable, our independent variable is the one thing we change. In fact, it goes in the first column of any data table that we have. And then what we observe is our dependent variable, and that's where it's going to go across here. So when we go to our graph, reminder, our independent variable always goes along the bottom, and our dependent variable always goes up the side. And then some other things that we're going to need to have is like our title. We've got a bunch of things we're going to need here, but I've got a yellow highlighter here. So I'm just going to give myself a reminder. That's where my title is going to go. So let's get this started. We want to label the independent variable, label the dependent variable. So our independent variable is our side of our penny. And we have a head, and we have a tail. Then we want to, and I usually just cross these off as I go. Independent variables, done. Dependent variables, so this is going to be number of drops of water. And to make this even more accurate, we can go drops, so then we know what the unit is. Now, I need information that's up in the 50s. I don't need all the information. So remember when we were looking at data tables and graphs, you want to have an accurate data table and graph. But if you're it wouldn't make much sense to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all the way up to 50. We've got to make sense of our data. So something we might want to do is, so we always have to show that we represent 0, and you need to get a straight edge for this. I don't care if you're using a folder, if you have a ruler, whichever, but we are going to need to make our L, and we're going to use our graph paper that we have here for it, and then we're going to go across this way as well. And I need to go just a little bit farther. Okay, so down here, we always, always, always have to represent 0. 0 must exist. But then, if we want to jump up to, remember, we've still got to show fair information. And if we scrunch our graph to the point that we've magnified these numbers that really we're not seeing a great representation, that's not very good either. But it might make sense to say go up to, let's go like 45, because I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. There's 20 here. So if I go up by 20, that gives me all the way to like 60. So that gives me a pretty good amount. So I think I'm going to start for mine. I could start at 40. I could also start at like 45, or for yours, you might be closer to the 20s. So maybe you're going to start in the 20s or the 30s. I'm going to start 40s here, and then I'm going to go up by ones. But it kind of makes it look messy when you write down every single number. Like, no, we don't need to write down every single number. We do need every single line to represent the same amount, and they do need to be evenly spaced out. So I'm just going to go every 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 45. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 50. This is 55. And I'm just going to stop there. So now we have our data table. We need to choose a good range of numbers. That's what we just did. We used a straight edge. When we get to our bars, when we're finishing, we're going to need to add color. We're going to need to write averages on the top, add a title, be neat and tidy. Be neat and tidy means making this look nice, using a straight edge ruler. So our first one is over the heads, we have 52. So 51, 52. Usually what I like to do is 1, 2, and then we need to go over where it says heads. And then so there's our bar for head. And we need to write at the top 52. That's our average. Now for pennies, it was, or for the tail, it was 51.3. So we've got 51, and we're going to go just a teeny bit above that. And we're going to use our straight edge again. Please do not just try to make bars with like freehand. It always looks like you have freehand it. So we have written averages on tops of the bars. Now colors, we either need colors or patterns. I really don't mind if you use colors or if you use patterns. What I'm going to do is I am going to use some colors to make this look nice. And what I usually do is I like to use like 2 different color patterns. So it's like, here's this one. So heads are this green bar. And then after you've made this, sometimes it even looks really nice to go back. Like, okay, now we're going extra. Like, you're like, okay, Miss Moradic, that's a little much. But you could do this and make it look really, really, really nice. So there's my heads, and then my tails. I sometimes have students like the little cross hatches that I just did. They're like, ooh, I'm going to use my ruler to make those. Oh, that is just fantastic if you would like to. Now, if you're like, hey, Miss Moradic, I don't know that I have colors at home, you could just use patterns. Just make it so they're 2 different patterns. But really the best is to have 2 different colors all together. So have we added our colors? Yes. Have we been neat and tidy? Yes, but we don't have our title. So our title could be it has to have something to do with the side of the penny and how many drops of water. We could go like, which side of the penny will hold more drops of water. And so there's my title. I have all of the parts. You need to have all of the parts to earn all of the credit. Okay? So let's go to the very last page then. The very last page is looking at then our conclusion. So looking at our bar graph, the average number of drops of water on the head. So for mine, this is not true to yours. So put your own information, please. Mine, my head held 52 and my tail held 51.3. And I got this information from here. For my information, the head held more water, but that might not be the same for you. Now I need to look back at my prediction from page 1 and did my predictor correctly. So I'm going to look back. You guys wrote this information. I gave you some time to do that. So, did it? Say yes. Say no. Were you close? Were you far off? So then the science concepts of cohesion and surface tension. Look up what those definitions are. Either use a dictionary or go online and use an online dictionary. Reminder, use a nice definition. Sometimes people, they look it up and they're like, ooh, it has big words I've never heard of. Okay, that doesn't help you at all then. So use a definition that's actually usable to you. And then what did you and your teacher do to make this a fair test? So what were some of those things you did to make sure it was a fair test? Those were some of our controlled things right at the beginning. And then as you were doing the lab, what were things that you kept in mind? What were at least 2 sources of error? So what are some things that could have been not great? One idea could be maybe you didn't have the penny dried off all the way. Maybe it's something to do with how the water was added. Maybe it was something to do with how what your penny looked like. Maybe it was how you were putting the drops of water on. You need to come up with 2 there. And then what would you do to make this lab better and even more accurate? Explain why, use a complete sentence. There's always a student that goes, nothing, this test was good. No, we can always make it better. So what things from your error would go into this? If we did this test again, what would you want to test? What would you want? Would you maybe want to, are there different coins you want to test? Do you want to see if there's different liquids? Hand sanitizer, we got plenty of it right now. If how that would work, you can think of anything. Or how can you make this a better test? Just pennies and water. Use a complete sentence. We're looking for a nice sentence there and good thoughts. When you're done, we do have some videos that are just kind of extending what we've learned. If you've got extra time to go into those, I would really recommend going into them because it's just going to talk more about what we just did. Otherwise, once this all looks super nice, then go ahead and turn it in. And if you ever have any questions, please ask your science teacher. Otherwise, you should be good to go and have a great day. Bye.